Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the Moon Scarab channel. My name is Ramon, and welcome to another episode of In Orbit, a show in which we chat with people from the divination community about life, divination, and more. If you're watching on replay, thank you very much for tuning in. And today I am so excited to share with you my guest, and this is the one and only Lisa Papez. Hello, Lisa.
Hello. Hi,
Did I
everybody.
pronounce it correctly? I'm terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Yes.
always guessing myself. It's my married name. It is what it is. We do our best.
Yes. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having
I
me.
yes, I admire your channel. You have almost 18,000 followers.
Oh,
And
dang.
yes, 1.4 thousand videos. And I extended the invitation, and I was surprised and honored that you accepted to join us on this show.
Yeah, I love these kinds of chats. I think this is one of the coolest things about our like divination community is that we have these it communicate like these chats with each other, these community conversations. I freaking love it.
Mhm.
I love it.
Yes, yes, and that's the purpose of this show. Having a conversation with people who are tarot tubers, uh, people who are deck publishers, people in general. Because especially with people who have channels, these topics about your spiritual journey pops up every now and then. But with so many videos, it gets buried,
Yeah.
and it's good to every now and then bring it up and resurface it
Yeah.
and remind people how we started and share those experiences, right?
Yeah. I love these
Yes.
conversations.
Thank you for joining us. Let's say hi to a few people here in the chat. We have Madame Maru, House of Cards. Hi, Maru, how are you? Thank you
Hi,
for
Maru.
joining us. We had the beautiful Amanda, Tropical Empress in Spirit. Hello, Amanda. Thank you for being here. And who else we have? We have
Soul alchemy.
Heather. Hello, Heather. Soul Alchemy and Indigo Jaguar.
Hi,
I
Heather.
I share so much with Heather. We've done so many shows together. She's awesome.
I love that.
We have Yes, we have Natalie Schumacher from South Australia. Thank you so much for joining us.
What
We
time is
have
it in Australia right now? Holy cow. Hi, Natalie.
I think it's like 12 hours ahead, so it should be like 9 in the morning
Early morning.
or so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's tomorrow over there. They're in the future.
Oh, thank you, Maru.
Yes, we have Bobby, Robert Fiero Taro. He's
Hi, Bobby.
fantastic. We have Ginger Faye. I share some shows with Ginger. We do some paranormal shows together, exploring different
Paranormal?
topics.
Is this
Yes,
like paranormal and tarot?
yes,
I love that.
yes. Oh, you
So
do? Oh, you
fun.
got to join us then.
Oh, I'll have to check
Yes.
it out.
Oh my God, yeah. We've done the Stanley Hotel. That was the last one. We did one on the Mothman from Point
Oh,
Pleasant
fun.
in West Virginia. We did one on my house because there was a spirit here in my house, and so many
Wild.
topics. Yes,
Oh,
yes.
cool.
You have to join us on one day on
Yeah,
one of the
I'll have to
shows.
watch. I'm very good at story time. Like I love hearing the
Uh-huh.
stories. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So she has a show, and so does Heather
Oh,
from
nice.
Indigo Joe. Yes. So check them out. We have Miss Tarot D. Hello, Miss Tarot D. And
Hello.
let's see. We have Somaya. Hello, Somaya from San Diego, California. Let's see. Let's see. We have Tarot Ass Backwards. That is Jeff. Hello, Jeff.
Hi,
He's a
Jeff.
great poet. And let's see. We have so many. We have a lot of people here in the chat. Let's get started because I'm very anxious to chat with you.
Okay,
Again,
doke.
thank you very much for joining us. You're in Canada, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in the
What time
Vancouver
is
area, so
what?
it's like 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock?
Yeah.
Oh my God, we're like 3 hours different then.
Yeah, it's almost our
It's
bedtime, right? Like it's like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
exactly our.
It's 9 p.m. here in the East Coast of the United States,
Yeah.
and you know, a lot of people here. Everybody knows that you have an amazing channel, um, but for people who don't know, we might have one or two. Tell us about yourself. Who is
Oh.
Lisa Papez?
Oh my gosh. You'd think I'd be really good at this by now, but I'm terrible at introducing myself. I'm 47. I started reading and working with tarot cards when I was like 19, 20. So I've been playing with cards off and on pretty much my basically my entire adult life. And
Hmm.
I found Tarot Tube quite by accident. In fact, I kind of found Tarot Tube when I didn't know people sat and watched YouTube. Now it's all I do. Like that's my main
Hmm.
investment is I watch YouTube. But when I first found it, I was looking up something else. Like I was watching makeup on YouTube and I was watching what else did I watch? Or something else. And I think what actually brought me into the divination side was I had encountered a video. I think it might have been Kelly at the Truth and Story or somebody else, but something about Lenormand. And it was actually, funnily enough, Lenormand and my being curious what that was. And also, people were talking around that time, I think, about the Wild Unknown tarot. And I remember seeing Wild Unknown reference somewhere and being like, that is so different because when I had last picked up tarot decks, they all kind of looked the same. And so I remember kind of, it was like Lenormand and Wild Unknown are the two things I kind of remember, but also my memory.
Hmm.
So that's something else you should know about me. So yeah, I'm married. My wife Peggy sometimes shows up on the channel. She's a whole character.
Yes.
She's like the ultimate.
Sometimes she's allowed in the channel with
Yeah,
your shenanigans shows.
yeah. We sort of balance each other out quite
Uh,
nicely. And we have two stepsons. We have two dogs. Or I have two stepsons. They're her boys. Our
yeah.
children. And then we have two dogs. And I don't know what else do you want to know. Like hit me up. But those are the main, like I guess, high level things.
Uh-huh. All
Yeah.
right. That's awesome. So that's how you discovered divination. How
Yeah.
let's start. Tell us about your spiritual journey. How did you what was your evolution growing up? How everything led up to this point?
To that.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm quite a journey, and mine's always evolving. But I was raised in a household that was always like semi-religious, but like non-church going. Like my biological
Mhm.
father was church going, so I had some exposure to like Christianity. But when I was around 19, I was dealing with sort of a whole lot of things, like 18, 19 or so. I was realizing I was gay or at least bisexual. So I was
Mhm.
dealing with all of that and dealing with how that did or didn't clash with my family and with religion and kind of going through this whole sort of internal crisis about all of that. Meanwhile, my very best friend at the time was also coming out of the closet, and also he was actually much more religious than I was, I would say, and he was
Mm.
really struggling. So I kind of went this whole kind of breakup with Christianity, I guess, around that time. But I
Mhm.
also had always had a very, I guess, intimate relationship with my spirituality. Like I'd always felt very connected and very much like my relationship with deity in whatever form it might take was always very personal. And so I kind of lost that for a little while. And then I fell into or sort of started discovering Wicca and those circles, more new agey sort of things. And I think I still remember the first time I ever walked into a new age or like a witchy store was because I was walking down a street in this like little town and I looked through the window and you know how they have at like checkout, they have those display cases?
Yes.
Gonna be
Uh-huh.
so silly. There was a stone in a display case, and from the street, I saw this stone in the display case, like at the other end, and it was kind of look like it was glowing. So I
Uh-huh.
went into the store and I bought it, and now I still have it today. It was like an egg shaped. I don't even think it's real. It's like opalite, I think is what it was. It's like that glass,
Uh-huh.
that kind of frosted glass
Yes.
looking
Uh-huh.
stuff.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
bought that stone, and they had like a weekly witchy book club or something that they did. And so I ended up signing up for that and going to that. And then I ended up in witchy circles, and they would have these like divination nights where they would get together and they would do tarot and oracle or like read tea leaves or palmistry or just whatever they were into at the time. And that was around the time I had my first ever tarot reading. And I remember sitting across from the person who gave me the reading. I actually talk about this in
Uh-huh.
Unlocking the Tarot, but I sat across from this girl and she did a reading for me. And I remember thinking it was just the most magical experience ever. I was like, you have to be some kind of special human to be able to do this. Like, I didn't understand how she did it. No way would I have imagined that I could do it. And that reading ended up being really impactful. And so many of those things ended up playing out in my life exactly as she had said. And I just couldn't stop thinking about it. So I eventually wanted to pick up my own deck, but the Rider Waite Smith I thought was hideous. I'm so sorry
Mhm.
to I did. I hated it.
That
I
is my
hated it.
one.
I'm so sorry. I have
No,
such
no
a deep
offense. I
appreciation for
heard
it
it so
now.
many times already.
Yeah. But I ended up getting the Osho Zen Tarot and picking it up, and I had a whole journey with that deck, and that's kind of what sent me down the path. But that's the deck that sort of showed me that I could potentially read,
Mhm.
and it kind of took off from there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, s- uh, so it's very interesting because we have a lot of parallel experiences. I was raised in a Christian household. My father, he's my father. He is really religious. He still is. My parents are
Yeah.
still married, and it was a struggle for me, being raised in the church and then dealing with my sexuality. I'm gay,
Yeah.
and I went through a lot of painful experiences in terms of trying to accept myself. And at the
Yeah.
same time, I had my best friend. We're still friends. His name is Richard. He was also in church and dealing with the same situation.
Wow. We
So
do have
we kind of,
parallels.
yes, we parted ways with the church at the same time. The only difference was that he stayed exploring other forms of spirituality, where I didn't want to deal anymore with spirituality in general
Yeah.
until mysterious path led me into tarot and divination.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's from that moment in which you encountered divination up
Yeah.
to how did you take that leap into creating your own channel?
Oh goodness. So I had tarot was just like a part of my life. Like it once I
Hmm.
started reading, I had my deck, I just carried my deck with me everywhere. Like I would read for anybody and everyone who would sit for me. And then I went through, I've heard from so many people who did this where we had kind of like not a breakup, but we were on a break. Me and Tarot were on a break. And we'd
Hmm.
been on a break for like several years. And I don't know if it was just that my life had stabilized. I don't know if you've gone through this, but when your life is full of a lot of chaos or there's a lot of ups and downs, at least me, I go to my cards much more often than when things are
Hmm.
nice and like
Yes.
cool.
Hmm.
Now it's different because my tarot is more embedded in my spiritual practice, which we can talk more about.
Right.
But
Hmm.
then it was more of a as needed kind of thing. And I just had a lot of need. And then I stopped having a lot of need. So I was on this big break. So I hadn't really picked up my cards for a while. Only once in a rare while when I had a real need would I pick them up. And then, like I said, I just happened to stumble onto a video or something. I wish I could remember exactly. And that's what sort of drew me back in. And I just started watching lots of content. And the thing that happened for me was I was watching people just having conversation and talking about what was important to them and talking about decks and talking about what they were interested in. So I kind of lurked, actually. I lurked on TarotTube for probably about 2 years. First, I didn't say nothing. I just watched and like enjoyed, and
You
that
were
was it.
silent in the background.
Totally
I
silent.
think
And
we've
then
all done that.
yeah, and then I couldn't I'm a talker.
Uh-huh.
Shocker. And at a certain point I was like, "Well, I want to say stuff. Like I want to
Uh-huh.
comment." So then I made a name for myself so that I could comment on YouTube. So I created a YouTube account and then started commenting. And then just community conversations were happening and I finally just one day I was like, "I have something to say." And I just wanted to
Uh-huh.
pop on and say it. And I came on to it was like something that was happening in the community. That's long gone, but I just wanted to come on and like
Hmm.
talk to these people who I felt like I knew at this point and just like chat about it. So I did that. And then my second video was like, let's talk about like my favorite tarot decks, or let's do this fun series where I'm going to put them head to head. And I just started playing around with content. But it was just because I just wanted a lot of us, I think, grow up in environments where we don't have a lot of people we can just nerd out about tarot with.
Hmm.
And suddenly there was all these people I could nerd out about tarot with. And I just wanted to do that. I wanted to nerd out. So that's why I started a channel. I just wanted to talk to
Hmm.
people, just people who
Yeah,
put up with me talking about it.
that actually happened to me too. I
Yeah.
started discovering tarot, and then when I came to the community, I started discovering that there was such a thing as a community. And it was amazing because I felt like I found my people.
Yeah.
And everybody had a different take, and there were so many topics around it, and that's what I love about tarot, because it is a spiritual form, but it's also uh, uh, a tool in which you can go for answers, connecting the universe, for clarity, for introspection,
Yeah,
and it's a spiritual connection that doesn't judge you.
that's right.
That makes
Yeah.
sense, you know?
Yeah, it does make
Yeah.
sense. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
empowerment to be found. There's also disempowerment to be found if that's where you go with it. But there's a lot of empowerment to be found in a spiritual practice that involves divination. There's a lot of like ways that I think it encourages us to know ourselves, to deeply know ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
at least when you're talking about doing cards for yourself. And then when you're doing cards for other people, especially people that you know, there's a connecting point. There's a way in which we can see each other beneath and behind some of the masks that we just wear as a part of functioning in society. Like, this is my
Mm-hmm.
grown up mask. This is my, I've got to function right now. This is my crisis management mask. And I think something
Yes.
about cards lets us get to the humanity of people, ourselves and others, just really naturally and really authentically. And I really appreciate that about
Mm-hmm.
working with tarot. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, definitely. So we have some more people popping in. We have
Hi, Rochelle.
Rochelle. Hello, Rochelle. Great seeing you. We have Karen. Karen
Hi.
is a great poet. We have Shy Violets. Hello. We have Lisa Sanders. Hello,
Hi.
Lisa. Great seeing you. Let's see. If you dared to say that
One of my favorite. Wait,
Rider
actually,
Waite
I
is
have a favorite.
hideous, then what is your favorite deck? Like,
Okay.
what was that first deck that resonated with you? That
Well,
it's you saw it not as a deck of cards, but a tool
like a
for connecting with the divine.
oh, that's a very good way to word that question. Like, the first deck that connected me was Osho Zen.
Mm-hmm.
But the first deck that like knocked my socks off, that like felt magical, like deeply, deeply magical, would be Soul Cards, which isn't even a tarot, and
Uh huh.
arguably not necessarily even an oracle. It's just a deck of pretty pictures. Have you seen them, the Soul Cards?
Yes, I actually have
Yeah.
both of them.
Do you? Yeah. So I have both.
Yes.
I've worked with
Uh
both.
huh.
I've had wild experiences with both. And
Mm-hmm.
they were really a huge transformative, working with those was a huge transformative experience for me. Like, wildly changed, I think, my card reading trajectory in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
ways. Yeah,
Yeah,
they were the ones.
yeah, they are beautiful, and I came to know them through Simon from the Hermits Cave.
Yeah.
He shared that when his mother passed away, uh, those were the cards that he was working with, and he found a lot of healing
Oh, I could see
going through
that.
that process with the cards. And I was so
Yeah.
intrigued. And down the road, he made a video in which he reclassified those soul cards, identifying them with each one of the 78 cards of the tarot. So he picked
Yeah.
one that he felt was the Fool, another one the High Priestess, the Magician, etc., etc.
I think a
And
few
it's
people must have done VRs to him, because I saw those, and it's funny because I deliberately did not watch them because I was so nervous, because once I saw any one of those cards in a fixed archetype way, I know my brain,
uh-huh.
I wouldn't have been able to disconnect it. And for
Yeah.
me, the beauty and power in those decks is the fact that they speak differently every single time. But I love that people did that, and I can totally imagine in my head, like, I could sit here and start to think, okay, which ones? And I know I would be able
Hmm.
to, but I don't want to lock them down like that. But it sounds like a
Yeah.
really powerful experience to do that. I just was like, no, not me. I want them free.
Yes, yes. So he brought it up, and you're the second person that I heard talking so profoundly about them. And
Oh, wild.
they are beautiful. I mean, they have no text, it's just
Nope,
images, but they are
nope.
so deep.
Yep.
And I found myself going so deep into my thoughts just looking at them.
Yeah. My copy is actually, so the combined set I've had since like, I think they came out right at the end of the 90s, early
Hmm.
2000s. Those decks were first printed. And mine are like soft. It's so hard to describe. Of all of the decks I have, those are the most worn because they just are so broken in and squishy. I don't know how to describe
Hmm.
it, but it's the best
Yeah, yeah.
feeling. They're just so
Uh-huh.
worn in. But I have
They're
I have had
seasoned. They're
they're so
seasoned.
seasoned. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like they are still the only way that I do like past life readings. If I need to go real deep into stuff that I have no other way to know, I'll use
Hmm.
those. It's really hard to describe, but they have a very specific space in my practice that nothing else could ever even come close to doing. Yeah,
Mm, wow.
they're incredible.
How many decks do you have?
Oh, the big question. Usually when I look at my spreadsheet, I have somewhere in the ballpark of 150 tarot, 70 to 100 oracle, and then a handful of like miscellaneous, like Lenormand and like other
Mm-hmm.
small decks. So I'm usually somewhere in that 250-ish, I would think, kind of ballpark.
Mm-hmm. Of
Yeah.
usable decks that you actually go through, or
Oh, if I were to sort
they're
of narrow
just
it
like.
down to ones, well, some of them are like seasonal, some of them are for specific
Mm-hmm.
spaces in my practice. I would say in any given year, I might work with, I don't know, 60 to 80. Or to like
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, I'm gonna narrow it down. And then of the one, yeah, I totally have a spreadsheet. I'm such a nerd. And then of the ones that like are my favorite favorites, I'd probably be able to narrow that down to like 20,
Mm-hmm.
30. I
Yes.
like variety.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Totally, totally. It's we can't go through talking about decks without mentioning you're coming out soon with your own deck.
Yeah.
You want to indulge us in talking about your upcoming deck?
Indulge me. Indulge me.
Please,
Yes.
please.
It's totally self-indulgent. I have it right here because it's always second to me.
Yes. I'm gonna put you
Um,
on the big screen so
okay. All
people
right.
can enjoy
Okay.
it.
Twist my arm.
Oh, hold
Um,
on.
that's okay. I'm gonna pull it out of the box.
There you go.
I wanted to do so one of the things that I've been doing in my like personal work for a long time is self-worth work. So as a yoga teacher, I did self-worth. I wrote my first book is about self-worth, and I wanted to do a tarot deck that could like be about self-worth, but also stand on its own 2 feet and also be about like unicorns because I'm a unicorn girl. So
Hmm.
I told a story with this deck. So this is Unicorn's Journey Tarot, and it actually takes us through a journey with this character, Mystic, who is a little unicorn. They begin in the Fool and they don't know that they're a unicorn, and they go through their whole fool's journey. They finally get their horn and step into a little magical world. And it's a lot of this is about every single suit has sort of self-worth themes. Every card has a self-worth message, but more importantly, we get to see sort of the way that the tarot tells a story all by itself, from the Fool through the world, but then also from the Ace to the King of Wands, and from the Ace to the King of Cups and Swords and Pentacles. And so we see Mystic have all these experiences. I love this. I love that the Queen of Air, or Queen of Swords in my deck, she takes Mystic's blindfold off, helps Mystic see the truth. But you can really see, I think, what I wanted to do with this was have a character that any of us could put ourselves into. So when I
Hmm.
write about Mystic in the guidebook, Mystic doesn't have a gender, so you can just kind of pick whatever feels right. Mystic might be a he to you, Mystic is a she to me, it doesn't matter. But yeah, this is Mystic. So every suit has an elemental theme. So we have fire, and that suit is occupied by these fire unicorns and little dragons. And in the water suit, we have little sea nymphs and water unicorns, which are just beautiful. In the earth suit, we have earth unicorns and little gnomes. You can see one of the little chonky earth unicorns in the back. They're the best.
Oh
And then in
my
the air suit, we
god.
have like little like air sylphs and air unicorns. So yeah, I just love it so much. It's my baby. And we're done now. The production actually just finished. So we are they're just shipping. Hopefully by the end of this week or early next week, they're going to be shipping to my fulfillment center, and they're going to be going out into people's hands. But it has been a process, and I worked on this deck for a really long time. So seeing it
Oh
all
my
come
god.
to fruition is,
The images are beautiful. Who did the
thank you.
artwork?
So my artist, her name is Francesca Paocchi, and
Uh-huh.
we have multiple projects on the go together. This was the first, and there will be a companion oracle deck coming out. And there's 2 other projects we're also working on right now for the
Okay.
future. No dates, just
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
someday.
Uh-huh.
Someday. But no,
In the
she's a very
works.
talented artist. She's from Milan. And we have just a fabulous working relationship. She's incredible to work with, very, very talented. And I searched and searched and searched for the right artist because I wanted somebody who would be able to give, I guess, a storybook feel. A lot of times with unicorn decks, they have this very, like, I love me some like bright colors, Lisa Frank, all the rainbows. Like, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted this to feel like a more timeless kind of unicorn story, like something that wasn't just kitschy and cute, but felt very like fairy tale-ish, like very
Uh-huh.
storybook. So yeah.
They are beautiful. I
Thank
actually,
you.
you just made me want to get it. Going through the images, I
Yeah,
love it. I definitely
yeah,
want to love
I'm
it.
really proud of it.
I want to
Thank
have
you.
it. Yes, and but that's not your only project. You mentioned that
Oh,
you wrote a book a while ago. You have
yeah,
an upcoming one called Unlocking the Tarot, and I'm so excited about that
me
one. Do you want to
too.
share with us too about that project?
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about it. So,
Hmm.
one of the things I did a few years back is I launched a free course on YouTube called Tarot with Training Wheels. And my
Hmm.
goal for that was to get people started reading tarot the way that I got started reading tarot, which is don't try to overthink or learn all the things right from the beginning. You've got to just start, my opinion.
Hmm.
The passion for learning tarot and all of the layers comes as you get to know and love the system. But to begin with, I really am passionate about learning a simplified meaning for each card and then building on that over time or letting it open doors to what that card could mean, because that's how I learned. So I rolled out Tarot with Training Wheels, which is a way to teach a single keyword method of learning the tarot. And then eventually that then led to Unlocking the Tarot. So Unlocking the Tarot, Create Your Own Keys is a book about learning a single keyword way to associate with each single card, but not just here's the right keyword, but here's like my favorite and here's a couple of other options. But the point is to pick a word that works for you, to
Hmm.
personalize it and really embed that particular word in your psyche as like this is what this card is about. This is the doorway of what this card means. And really, the idea of that is if you have a word like risk for the fool, that isn't meant to be like the fool is only about risk and that's it
Yeah,
forever and
yeah.
ever.
Hmm.
It's meant to be like this is a door or a key that you open up and you walk through like a portal to see where that can take you intuitively or
Hmm.
through study, but where does risk then lead you as to what this card could mean. So that's kind of the punchline of really what Unlocking the Tarot is about, is like teaching that method and guiding people through building their own personal association with a core understanding of what the card means, how it can apply, picking a word that works for you, and then really intimately getting to know that meaning and that word, and then really getting going with it.
That's how
So
you
yeah,
started learning the
yeah,
tarot.
yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Well,
It's
when you think about
as
it,
you
that
were
Osho
mentioning.
Zen, right? That
Uh
Osho
huh.
Zen tarot was my first deck, and it had a single keyword on every card instead of. So I wasn't learning what five pentacles meant. I was learning what well, I can't remember what the word was now. Maybe it was like miser or something or greed or whatever. Like you just
Hmm.
would learn a word and a story, and then you would
Right.
sort of get to know the tarot that way. Yeah.
Hmm. No, that is interesting. Because when I started learning tarot, I was trying to learn as many keywords as possible to each one of the cards,
Yep.
and it was overwhelming
Yeah.
because everybody had a different take on the meaning of the cards, and it was a process for me to be able to assimilate the meaning of associating the images with keywords. But what you say makes sense. Is
Yeah.
simplify a single word. And as you were mentioning it, I wasn't thinking much of a key. I was thinking about a seed. Like you
Yeah.
plant the seed of,
And then
I
it.
don't know, the full risk, and then it blooms into
Yeah.
other branches, words, as
Yeah.
as it grows, as your experience grow with the cards.
It's like a mind map, right? Like I think that
Uh-huh.
the travesty of people's reactions to keywords is that so many of us think it's a thing we have to take this big idea of a tarot card and squish it down into this little box called risk.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't often realize that keywords work the other direction too. Yes, for beginners, they take this big idea and they distill it down. But for advanced readers, when you work with a keyword, it actually creates this opportunity for you to use as a springboard or a diving board, like you said, a seed that can grow and blossom. It's what mind maps are. Like when you're
Mm-hmm.
when you're just brainstorming, you usually start with a simple idea and then you boop 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 and you like kind of bounce around off of that idea. You can do the exact same thing with tarot as long as you have a solid starting point that makes sense to you. And that's, I
Mm-hmm.
think, part of the problem is a lot of times when we start to learn keywords, we're learning somebody else's. And so what I'm trying to do in Unlocking the Tarot is say, yeah, sure, these are mine. But like that might not work for you. This might work for you instead, or this might work for you instead. I carried around a thesaurus like it was my child while I was writing that book because I wanted to show there's so many other ways to explore words and find ones that work. But if you empower yourself to get really confident about one, then every time you pull that card, it might still mean something different. But you've got that springboard. You've got that
Mm-hmm.
bouncing place to start.
That is amazing. And I have the same approach with core cards,
Yeah.
because a lot of people, doesn't matter how long you've been with working with tarot, when you get to a core card, you pause a little bit longer because you're like, what do I do with you? So what I did, I used a keyword for each one of them, and that helped me speed up, the process of being able to process the message through the card.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's funny because actually when I got to the keyword section in Unlocking the Tarot, I changed everything up because it's one of the biggest tripping points for people with the tarot is the court cards. And so instead of thinking of it as a single point, fixed point, I thought of it instead as a spectrum, or like I call it a sliding scale.
Hmm.
So you might have a word like approachable, like we'll talk the King of Cups. So I see the King of Cups as approachable, but at the other end, it might be complacent. So the King of Cups can slide between being really approachable and accommodating, or he can be really complacent and kind of be a bit of a doormat and like get walked all over. That's one
Hmm.
example, right? So you have this, instead of me seeing it as just a single word, I offer in Unlocking the Tarot the idea that there's a spectrum of personality. And when you work within that sliding scale, you can kind of play with the more positive traits, the more challenging traits of that personality and play with it
Hmm.
and get to know it. And then I associate it with like a pop culture person. So, for example, the King of Cups for me is like Mr. Rogers, or like the ace, or sorry, the page of, I always get these two mixed up. I think I used Wands. Page of Wands is like Shirley or Anne Shirley from Anne of Green Gables, because she's such a
Uh-huh.
like, everything is magical to her. Everything is wonderful, but she also gets herself into all these scrapes because she's constantly like, just overdoing it or being super reckless. It's just fun to play with dynamic energy and bring it to life. And then once you do that, then when it comes up in a reading, you're like, oh, this is that kind of energy. Yeah, the court cards are such a
Yes,
cool place to play.
I know. They're much more fun than people give them credit.
Agreed. Yeah,
They
because there's
are.
something
They are.
they're kind of scary because you're like, I don't know, is this a
Hmm.
person? Is this an energy? Is it me? Is it
Hmm.
somebody else? What do I do?
It could be both. It could
Yeah,
be
could be
both.
both.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We have Alexandra. Alexandra is from Austria. Hello. Thank you
Oh
for
wow.
stopping
Hi.
by. Yes, she's awesome. She's been following my channel since the beginning. We have
Hi.
Miss Gypsy Girl.
Hi,
Gypsy
Gypsy.
Girl is also amazing. Thank you for stopping by and joining us. Do you read reversals?
Oh gosh, I never know how to answer this question because I can never make up my mind. Most of the time, no. But
Uh-huh.
when I'm working with a Rider-Waite Smith clone or a Rider-Waite Smith like proper, oftentimes I will, but not every time. I'm very inconsistent about it. Typically, I would say no. Generally, no.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also fun and they can be dynamic and they can be cool to play with. And I think when it comes to like Rider-Waite Smith and clones, I feel more limited in how I read them. I can explain. I can explain that if you
Mm.
want. But basically,
Yes, please. I'm trying
okay.
to like
So I always have the Rider-Waite Smith in my head because when I
uh-huh.
think of the Five of Pentacles, I can
Mm-hmm.
always
That's your
immediately think of the
reference.
Rider-Waite Smith. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's so embedded that when I work
Yeah.
with a Rider-Waite Smith deck, I feel like I'm only working with half of the information, because when I'm
Mm-hmm.
working with another deck that has completely different imagery, I have the Rider-Waite Smith in my head and I have the image on the table. I can work with both.
Mm.
When I have the Rider-Waite
Okay.
Smith, I only have one image to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So I
I
feel
see.
like I'm hampered a little bit almost.
Uh-huh.
So when I'm working with a Rider-Waite Smith or clone, sometimes I'll pull in reversals just to kind of give me something more, something to kind of like
Mm-hmm.
shake it up a little bit. Otherwise, I get very like, "Ah, this isn't enough on the table. I want more." I'm
Uh-huh.
a greedy girl. I want multiple pictures all the time.
That's so
So yeah, kind
interesting.
of, yeah, bit of both.
That's so interesting. So with other decks, you're layering what you have in front of you and the reference that you have from right away. So
Yeah,
you
because I don't
have
know how
more
not to.
information.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
like it's always there. I don't know how not to include the Rider-Waite Smith because I can't think of these cards without also thinking of the Rider-Waite because it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like in there.
Uh-huh. It totally
Yeah,
makes sense. And I love
yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's amazing. So tell us, do you have like favorite spreads that you use in your
yeah.
personal practice? Like, do you follow a specific spread on your personal use? Do you go through different spreads? How do you feel about spreads?
Oh, so many things to say about spreads.
Uh-huh.
I absolutely love the Celtic Cross. I have a
Hmm.
version that I either learned or tweaked at some point. It feels like mine, and I do talk
Yeah.
about it in Unlocking the Tarot because I think the
Uh-huh.
Celtic Cross is often kind of misunderstood as like that, like, I don't know, boomer uncle in the corner who nobody wants to talk to, but like actually is really smart and has so much good stuff to share. The
Yeah.
Celtic Cross for me is because I learned it so long ago. I can whip it out for any question. You know, if I used to do tarot and tea events and I would do 15-minute readings, right? Boom, 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 in person, people would come. And I would do a full Celtic Cross because I knew that spread so well. And it works for any possible type of question that I just every time Celtic Cross, no problem. I can do that in 10 minutes. Give me, I can talk
Mm-hmm.
fast, believe me. Uh, so that's like my go-to favorite. But I think it's also about finding the right Celtic Cross because there's like 1,000 variations out there. So like
Mm-hmm.
finding one that makes sense to you is easy, doesn't overcomplicate it. Perfect. Love that. I do the Celtic Cross all the time. Still a favorite. But for myself, most of the time, I would say if I'm just pulling out like a daily draw kind of reading, I'm often using energy, obstacle, and advice, which I feel like also is very, just applies to everything.
Mm-hmm.
There was a similar reading out there, something I can't remember what it was, and I think I kind of Frankensteined a couple of other 3-card spreads and came up with that, or maybe I encountered it somewhere. I don't know, but it's great because energy gives you sort of the big picture, like what's going on around the situation or around yourself that day. Obstacle tells you any pitfalls or things to be aware of, like, you know, stuff to like look out for, and then advice is straightforward. So I like
Mm-hmm.
it because it gives a really well-rounded picture in just a few cards. But often I also just read organically. Like I love just putting a grid of cards on the table, 6, 8, 10, and just reading them. Like spreads can really help because they give you additional context, but they can also, like any other thing that has structure, can also create too much of a container. And sometimes you just want to be fluid with it and not have
Mm-hmm.
be able to like just read the overall vibe.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
my member readings, it's just 2 or 3 cards on the table. There's no spread positions. I just read them in a group, and that's how I do it. So I like both and talk about both in Unlocking the Tarot because I want to talk about structure and spreads, but I also want to empower people to just put cards on the table and be able to read them in combination because that's super empowering. So yes, to all of the things, basically.
Yeah, definitely. I see spreads as a way to organize information. It's a
Yeah.
visual thing,
Yeah.
because you can use whatever shape, but it's one that helps you uh, visualize the message and internalize it better, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like if the Lenormand system has houses, or in a grand tableau you'd have houses, and so you
Mm-hmm.
have 2 pieces of context. And in a math sense, spreads are great because then every card now has a context. So this card is contextualized by the past, or it's contextualized by the subconscious or the conscious. You have now a way to place that card in the reading in space. You don't have to just like fly by the seat of your pants. You do have that container and structure. And just like reading with the Rider-Waite Smith in my head and a different deck on the table, when you're working with a spread, you're working with the meaning of the card in combination with what that spread position is. So it gives you that
Yes.
extra stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you started a series on Lenormand.
Oh, yeah.
Which I loved. I mean, it was such a cool video, and I invite everybody to stop by Lisa's channel and check it out. But what other divinations tools do you use? Let's start with Lenormand.
Okay. I can never say it right. I'm so sorry. I'm sure so many people on Twitch.
Lenormand, Lenormand.
I
It's yeah.
always say Lenormand. I cannot break
Lenormand
my
is
habit.
like the French
Yeah, I
pronunciation.
think you're saying it correctly, and I think I
Yeah,
always say it incorrectly. So just for the
doesn't
record,
matter.
I love it because that system operates and functions completely differently than tarot does for me.
Hmm.
So when I was going through a bunch of work drama a few years ago with the job that I was at then, I and my boss was being legit terrible. I was like, what is going on? I don't want to pull a tarot card. I don't care why he's being terrible. I want to know what crap he's going to pull on me today. So I
Uh
was
huh.
like using Lenormand constantly. I have one that literally lives in my bag. I always have one with me because if something is going down, that system will tell me what is happening, what's going
Hmm.
to happen, what's going on, what do I need to expect, in a way that tarot, for me, it's hard for me to read tarot at that level. I tend to read tarot much more in a psycho-spiritual, I guess, kind of way. And it's hard for me to get down to the basics of the what. Tarot gives me the why and the how and the what to do next and like how to manage
Hmm.
things. But Lenormand is like, what's going down? Give it to me straight. And I love that
Uh
system for
huh.
that. I feel like
I totally agree. I totally agree.
it always does me right. Like it always gives me the information. And my favorite way to use Lenormand cards is to, let's say I need to know what's going on with a person, for example, then I'll shuffle my deck and I'll pull out the man card, or like let's say it's a guy, I'll pull out the man card and then I'll pull all the cards surrounding that and lay out a grid around that person based on where it was in the stack. And then that
Mm-hmm.
tells me what's going on around that person. Or like if I want to know what's going on with health or something like that, I'll pull the tree, then I'll pull everything that's around it. Or gosh, that person's being sneaky. What's up with that? And I'll pull maybe the snake and I'll pull what's around that. Or I'll pull cards that are between two other cards. Like if I want to know what's between this person and this person, I'll shuffle, flip until I find the first person, lay out the cards until I get to the second person and look at what's between them. So I do a lot of like funky things like that with
Mm-hmm.
Lenormand that I really like. That's just different than how I work with tarot.
I love it. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's
So you
really
use
fun.
significators with
A lot.
Lenormand.
A lot. In fact, that
Uh-huh.
changed how I worked with tarot because I now do that sometimes with tarot too. But I
Huh.
got that from Lenormand and then also from Marseille, learning a bit about Tarot de Marseille. I started doing more significator type things.
Huh.
Yeah.
How do you feel Rider Waite is different with from Marseille energetically?
Um, I don't know that I feel that there's necessarily energetically different, but I read a book by Caitlin Matthews, I believe Caitlin
Mm-hmm.
Matthews. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, called Untold Tarot. And it's all about learning the Tarot de Marseille. And in there, she had so many brilliant things about looking at cards in relation to one another that completely transformed the way that I read tarot. So for example, you might lay out a group of cards and in the Marseille, you see the hermit and he's holding up his lamp. Well, you might look at
Mm-hmm.
over to what the lamp is shining a light on. So she talked a lot about that kind of stuff. And it legitimately, I haven't read tarot the same since that book. And so some of that bled into my tarot practice. But energetically, I feel like Rider Waite Smith and Marseille feel similar. The only difference would be I would tend to go towards a Marseille deck or a Pip deck. If I want to read for something and I want to stay as neutral as possible, I find that easier with Pip decks and with Marseille. I'm not as swayed emotionally maybe by the images, by all the extra scenes. And so it can help me kind of distill or simplify or be more straightforward. So I tend to lean towards those decks for those kinds of questions, things like money or business or I don't know, anything where I want it, where it doesn't feel as peoply, then I'll tend to go towards those kinds of decks. But that's
Interesting.
where I go.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fascinating. I love it. I love it. Now it helps me see it differently because I'm not really a Marseille person. I'm not
Yeah.
really into pip decks. I have a few, but I use it more for numerology.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
that definitely helps me see it in a different light. Let's say hi to
Yeah.
a few more people. We have Hershey. Hello, Hershey.
Oh,
Great seeing you. We have some other people here. We have Audra D.
hello.
Hello. Great seeing you too. And Eva or Iva.
Hi.
Great seeing you. Thank you for stopping by. Let's see. We have a few more people. Um, oh, Benny is here. Hello, Benny. I
Oh, rough
saw
start.
he has an amazing series on each one of the cards, and you were the first guest. That was an
Yeah. He's got a
amazing
great
show.
channel.
Uh
Yeah.
huh.
That's a great series.
So, how, in your own words, would you help someone overcome their fear about the Grand Tableau? A lot of
Oh,
people are
I
intimidated by it.
I got nothing. I'm terrified of the Grand Tableau. I find
Are
it super
you?
intimidating. I don't think I can keep
Why?
that much information in my head. And
Uh
this
huh.
is why I want to be really clear. The Lenormand series, I am
Yes.
not a Lenormand expert or teacher or nothing.
Uh
This is a
huh.
let's learn together. Maybe by the end of
Yes.
it, we'll all be able
You
to
made
do a
that
Grand
clear in the
Tableau.
video from the get
Yeah.
go.
Like I am not here to teach. No, no, no. But I, I think that if I can master, I feel like I need to memorize the positions, and maybe that's not true. So,
Hmm.
do you use the Grand Tableau?
I do. I do.
Okay, give me some words of advice. I need them from you.
Well, I have a mat well, I have two mats. I
Yeah,
have one mat that has all the images of the cards, and I
perfect.
have another mat, totally different, that tells you the writer and then some of the keywords of the writer. It's
Ah,
good to help pairing the information, but the whole point is a lot of people get intimidated because they feel when you're doing a grand tableau, you have to read all 36 cards. And that's not
Yeah.
true. You know, you
No.
can read the corners, you can find your significant on the topic and read above as the future or closer to you as the past, or, you know, there's so many ways. And there's people who, there was a story of someone who spent a month reading a spread from the grand tableau because there was so much or so many ways to read it. So
Yeah.
it really, it's what resonates with you. But I love it because it's a way of layering meanings. You know,
Yeah.
think of it as, for example, with Lenormand, one card modifies the meaning of the other,
Correct. Yeah.
right? So it's the
Yeah.
same thing. Instead of being side by side, is one on top of the other.
Yeah.
So
Like a spread position, but it's like two cards instead almost.
exactly,
Yeah.
that's
It's
basically what it is. So
it's funny
it's
because
not
on the
as
surface
difficult.
level, I kind of
Hmm.
feel like what you're describing and like how I've seen people work with it. And I have, like, when I've worked with a grand tableau, it's because I've laid one out and taken a picture and then like
Hmm.
referred to it over a long period of time, which is kind of like what you were just saying.
Yeah,
In a way, working with it that way, where it's kind of like what I'm already doing when I say I use significators and then shuffle and look for what's between. That's kind of the same thing if I just
exactly.
laid
It's
out all the cards.
exactly the same thing. That's why I brought it up, because it's the same principle.
Yeah, it's
Basically, that's what
exactly
it
the same.
is.
The only difference is
Uh-huh.
that I haven't yet done that where I've layered in the houses. That's the
Hmm.
only thing. I haven't layered in the, or is that what you call it? The houses? The what's underneath? Yeah.
Sorry. Gotta...
So I haven't
Yes.
yet done
Hmm.
done that
Hmm.
where I've laid it out and then really thought about, okay, this is in the writer position or this is in the whatever position. But like the surface level reading of just the cards and significators, I feel like that part I'd be pretty comfortable with. I think it's just that extra
Hmm.
layer of what's underneath or what position the cards are in. That
Yes.
combo, I haven't learned or worked with that yet.
Yeah, that's the easiest because it's, I feel it's much more intuitive, because
Yeah,
if you have the writer and then you have the snake, automatically right there you have the combination of what resonates with you. And it goes
right.
back to the same principle of, you know, trying to get away from the keywords. You know, it's how the
Yeah.
message flows, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but Lenormand is a beautiful divination tool, and I use it a lot.
Do you?
I combine, yes, I combine tarot with Lenormand and Elder Futhark runes and oracles. When
I
I do
love
my
that.
readings, I combine different divination tools at the same time, and I
Yeah.
feel it gives a much more richer message.
Yeah, I saw some things on your channel. So you've made all kinds of little tools for yourself. You had like
Yeah.
Othello things. I thought that was brilliant. You had the Othello coins, the white and black. I think you call them
Yes,
moon coins or
moon
moon
coins. Yeah,
moon
uh-huh.
coins.
I have
I was
my
like,
own
that's
system.
brilliant.
Yes, yes. I have a lot of different divination tools that I've made. I have
Yeah.
an Elder Futhark Rubik's Cube
No, you
that
don't.
I
Really?
do. I actually have a
You
video
have it
on it.
handy?
Um,
It's okay if you
if you
don't,
give
but
me
I'm
a
just like,
second, I
okay,
do.
I want to
Let
see
me
all
go
the
into
things.
my box. I'm gonna put you on
Okay.
the break screen. Just say
Okay,
whatever you
perfect.
want.
Oh,
While I, oops, sorry,
other way,
while I
other way.
find it. Yes,
I get it.
there
Like,
you.
listen. Oh my goodness. I want to see all the things. I want to see all the things. I love when people do creative stuff with their divination systems. It makes me really excited. I think because I think for a long time I was such a purist. I was like, you have to have these specific tools, but now anything can be divination. We do the D&D dice thing. Don Michelle and I just rolled that out like last month or whatever. If you'll have a chance to check that out, it was pretty awesome. And so I have all these D&D dice now that I use to divine with constantly. Oh, you found it. Did you find it?
I did find it. Yes, I use dice for divination tool too.
I
I
love
actually
that.
have two. I have two.
Oh, they're the
This
fours.
was,
Oh, that's so smart.
yeah. So you know Elder Futhark is 24 different characters. There's
Yeah.
25 if you use the blank rune.
Yeah.
But so I saw this Rubik's cube one day, and I'm always counting things. You know, like
Yeah.
tiles in a place, this that. So I said, oh, 24, and automatically I thought of the Elder Futhark.
Yeah.
So I said, why? Let me just make a Rubik's cube, and I
That's
made this one
amazing.
as a prototype. And I found this vendor in Etsy who printed the stickers, and I set it to the automatic. I mean, to the specific size,
Yep.
and this came up. Yeah,
That
so I
is
have two
amazing.
because Yeah, one has stars, and
It's
the other one is,
sparkly.
yeah, much
I like the
plainer.
sparkly one better.
Yeah.
Nobody's
So what I
surprised.
do is, you like this one more?
Yeah, yeah. I love
Okay,
sparkles.
we got to talk behind screen then.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so what I do is, like when you're shuffling cards, where to stop. Same thing. I do different turns,
Yeah,
and I treat the whole thing as a dice. And I toss
yeah.
it, and wherever it lands. I have the characters there, and I do the reading.
That is awesome.
Yes,
That is
I love
awesome. That
it.
is so creative. I love that so much. It's amazing that once you kind of understand, I guess, for yourself how you view divination or what that does for
Hmm.
you, then the sky's the limit. Anything can be a source of divination in that context.
Yes. Hmm.
Bibliomancy. You can flip through things. You can look at patterns in the sky or the clouds or the whatever your beverage of choice is that evening. Like there's so many ways to divine, and that's very, very cool that you've made it your own like that. That's amazing.
Yes, thank you. That's why there's so many Mancies out there.
That's
Like
right.
you can use divination, looking at patterns in the sand, clouds, water. It's anything,
Yep.
anything. If you
Yep.
go to Wikipedia and type in types of divination, there's hundreds and hundreds of different ones that have been used throughout the ages.
Yeah.
Even like looking into the entrails of the animals and
Oh yeah.
anything.
Yeah,
Yes,
auguries, which was just like, I
anything.
mean, back in medieval Europe or however long ago. I mean, I'm not a history buff, but they would literally just, if a particular bird flies by at a certain time or a cow crosses your path, or there was all these signs, and they would look for signs just in like everyday life, like
Hmm.
what was around them, what was in their environment, and they would read those things. And I mean, I think it's just really cool that people can find their own system or find multiple systems that work for them.
Yes, definitely. I always encourage people to create their own divination tools if they can,
Yeah,
because you connect better with them. I
I
love
agree.
creating those, like little things. I've done a lot of pendulums. I love
Yeah,
pendulums,
I like
but
pendulums too.
it's
Pendulums are
fun.
my go-to for yes, no. Super simple.
Mm.
And
That
I
was my
trust.
next question. So
Yeah.
besides tarot and Lenormand, what other divination tools that you use?
Runes. I've used both the Elder Futhark and the like the witches runes.
Witches
I
runes?
really
Uh-huh.
like the Elder Futhark. I did a deep study on that with my bestie a while back. We did it through YouTube and Facebook and all that. We did a big deep dive. So I got very comfortable with the Elder Futhark system in general. And I find that
Mm-hmm.
it has a particular energy for like it feels big, like it feels like bigger energy or big picture. And in
Mm-hmm.
fact, for a long time in my client readings, I would always have a rune from a rune deck that I'd pull at the very beginning just to sort of see what the overarching theme of the reading was going to be. I love working with single runes at a time, or like maybe three-ish, somewhere in there. I don't go crazy with runes,
Yeah.
but I really, really enjoy them. And Witches Runes is similar. I never quite memorized the system, but I do have a set that I enjoy. And pendulums. I also have worked with a little bit of Ogham. I'm just starting to learn. I have a set of Ogham staves that are from the actual woods that are associated,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't had a chance to do my deep dive, so I've kind of just got them right now.
I
Charm
have a s-
casting. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a set myself, and it's kind of like challenging going through it, but
It is challenging. Yeah, I've got a great book on it and I've got a wonderful set and some other tools, but it's just having the time. I signed up for one of Kelly at the Truth and Stories classes and it's literally still sitting there for me to go through at some point, like in my to-do
mhm,
list, but I'm enchanted by tactile things. I really like systems where I can get my hands on something. So the physical shuffle or the physical cast.
mhm.
Um, I'm very in touch with that tactile experience. So I like those kinds of things. I'm trying to think if there's anything else off the top of my head. But yeah, nothing
You
else.
mentioned dice.
Oh yes, the
Dice?
D&D dice. Yes.
Uh-huh.
So Don Michelle and I created a whole divination system based on the D&D system. We just released it, but we've been working with that for months and months now. And it's
Uh-huh.
great. It's again very tactile. Dice are so delicious to work with for divination. I love
Oh
them.
my God, they're
I'd
great.
also really like to create a system for myself using only D6, but like a lot of D6. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've got in my head kind of I want to do something because I've got this like set of like all these beautiful little D6s and they're all matching and they're beautiful and I just want to do something with them. But I don't know what I would do with them yet. I haven't thought of it, but I'd love
Are
to
they
do a
all
set.
white? Are they
They're
all
kind of
white?
like a bone color almost. Like they're like a
Mm-hmm.
white gold marble from Chessex. They're beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Love
Yeah,
them.
they do beautiful dice. The quality's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I was
gorgeous.
asking because I have a divination system that I use, I mean, for personal use, and I have a video
Yeah.
on it in which I assign meanings to each one of the numbers, but I use different colors as well. I have a green one
Oh,
for earthly matters, I
love
have
that.
a yellow one for air, a blue for emotional one, I
Love
have
that.
a purple one for spiritual topics.
Are they all
Um,
D6?
yes, they are.
Oh,
Yes,
that's
check it
fun.
out because it's
Yeah, I
it's it's
will.
very interesting.
Dice are
So
so satisfying. They just, I think my favorite things to like fondle sounds terrible. Dice and cards.
mhm.
Dice and cards. I love them. I just love
Do
the
you
feel.
combine them? Do you
Yeah,
combine them
absolutely.
different?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a whole. We have, like I said, we have a whole system, but like in fact, the D&D system, I will do a dice only reading, but oftentimes I'm combining with cards. So I might cast the dice to clarify a single card, or I might pair them with a set of cards. So it's, yeah, I love mix and matching systems. And in fact, when I do my month ahead system right now, I guess my monthly reading system was an envelope system. So around end of November, early December last year, I did
Uh-huh.
readings for myself, but I dealt it all face down for each month. And then I put the cards into an envelope. I wax sealed it, put the month on it, and put it away. And so every month this year, I just get to open it up and see what my reading is for that month, which is an
Uh-huh.
amazing way to do a monthly reading because I'm not agonizing. Which month is my tower month again? I don't know.
Right.
Uh, so it's a surprise each month. I open it up, but
Uh-huh.
I've got a tarot, 2 oracle, and 3 Lenormand cards in there. So
Wow.
that's fun.
That's amazing. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts? Let's move into a deeper topic. What are your
Okay.
thoughts on reincarnation?
Yes. No, I'll expand. Um, I will. I will.
That
Definitely
was
believe
good.
in it. I believe that, like my personal set belief on it is that we continue to that we chose to incarnate in the first place, essentially, and
Mm-hmm.
that with every incarnation, we once you kind of it's kind of like once you get on the ride, you don't get off until it's come to a full and complete stop kind of situation. So once you choose to incarnate, in my opinion, you have a life and there's certain things you need to learn. Maybe you chose to learn them, or maybe you were given those things to learn, depends on how you view it. But I think that there's things we need to learn, and we either learn them or we don't. And if we learn them, we get to kind of go on to a new like level, almost like school, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't learn them, then you kind of have to repeat similar lessons in your next life until you kind of get that thing down. And so I see it as sort of a repeating thing where we're going to see a lot of patterns from life to life that we need to kind of resolve. And eventually we heal and move beyond those things, or we learn to tackle certain things. And then eventually maybe we're kind of cooked and done and we've learned everything we need to learn, but I feel like that takes a very 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 long time. Um, but that is how I typically view it. I think we spend a little time between just kind of integrating, and then we come back again and have a
Mm-hmm.
new experience. So that's kind of how I view it. What about you?
Have you ever nobody's ever asked me that. I do believe in reincarnation. My
Yeah.
thing is, and I believe that we come back uh just to go through different lessons and different experiences, but I tend to see it in a different way because I believe in life outside of Earth,
Yeah.
alternate universes, different planets. So
Yeah.
I don't see why not why when we talk about reincarnation, we always have to come back to Earth. I feel that
Agree.
we can go into other forms of life, other alternate universes, and even different timelines,
Yeah.
because we always talk about coming back to Earth in the future, but we can perfectly reincarnate in the past as well. So,
Sure. Yeah. I think we
it's
think time is linear, but that's just because that's how
exactly.
we conceptualize time. But that doesn't mean that's how
Hmm.
time actually functions. When you start getting
Yes.
into like 4D and all these other concepts, like
Hmm.
there's a very high likelihood that time doesn't move in a linear way. And
Yes.
I love going down the rabbit hole with all that stuff, and quantum
Hmm.
physics and the quantum level stuff is really cool to think about. But
Yes,
yeah,
it's amazing because so that gives to me it gives a much broader perspective of the concept of reincarnation.
absolutely.
It makes it much more fascinating.
Yeah.
It's I think is our minds are not capable to understand the greatness of how the complexity of the system,
I
how it
think if we could
works.
understand everything in existence, that'd be awfully boring. Like I want there to be
It
some
is.
mysteries, you know? And I
Mm-hmm.
think I think there's so much that's beyond human comprehension. And I think there's so much that is all around us, but because we're conditioned not to see it, we just don't see it. If you've ever heard of like the cargo cults back in the
No.
day. So the idea is that there's a similar story about when I think it was like Christopher Columbus or something went to part of the Americas or something. But essentially what happened is that cargo was being dropped into these remote areas and people didn't
Oh,
understand.
yes.
So they thought it was gods or whatever.
Yes.
Similarly, there's a story about like settlers coming or colonizers coming to the Americas or whatever part, and they didn't even see the ships because they had no conceptualization for what the ships would be. They just didn't register them. And so I think in a similar way, there's tons of stuff around us all the time, magical, otherworldly beings, aliens, whatever, and we don't see it, we don't register it because it's not in our understanding. So we just disregard what doesn't make sense cognitively to us. So yeah, I think there's wild possibilities around us of stuff that we're just not experiencing. We're not aware of it. So we don't know.
No, that is true. And I heard of that concept, you know, especially with the ships, the natives not being able to understand or register what they were seeing because they never had anything to reference it to.
Exactly. Yeah. So cool.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, so that helps me understand and believe, you know, the possibility of reincarnation. You know, that makes me think of, there's this video on YouTube also called The 10 Dimensions. And it starts to talk on, it goes exploring the concept on each one of the dimensions. And it says that we are able to perceive dimensions below us because we live in a three-dimensional world, so we can understand and see what two dimension looks like and the first dimension, but we're not able to register dimensions above us. So if you're in the fifth dimension, you can see what's on the fourth and the third and the second, but not anything above. And it goes, I mean, the video is amazing. If you haven't watched it, look it up. It's called The 10 Dimensions, and it explains in detail timelines and everything, and just the way they illustrate it, it's so easy. The images are very basic, but it's so powerful and helps you understand it like much more.
Yeah, I love that. I will look that up. That sounds awesome. But that makes so much sense to me that if it's something we will have experienced or had some encounter with either in this life or prior lives. Do you think then that in reincarnation you might move up in how much you can conceptualize? Do you have an idea of like I guess trajectory of in this life, for example, like in this plane on this earth, whatever, we're fairly aware of third dimension, second dimension, first dimension kind of situation.
Right.
Do you think it's possible then that when you reincarnate, you get access to like fourth dimension and then get to like kind of over time, maybe get access to more and more and more?
Yes, that is a possibility. I love that thought.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's worth exploring.
For sure.
So let's talk about artificial intelligence. How do you feel about the concept of artificial intelligence in our daily lives, but also in divination?
You know, I have a whole lot of thoughts. I feel like a lot of us, well, I'll speak for myself. I think my thoughts are evolving, and I think how I feel about it ethically and also what it's capable of and all those kinds of things is constantly in flux right now. When it first started becoming a topic of discussion, I was like, this is vile and horrible and evil. And then because I just had this very visceral, like, oh my gosh, like don't replace human art. Like I work with artists, I value artists, I hire artists. Like the experience of working with a real life artist who conceptualized my deck, for example, has been the most magical experience of my life. So I don't want a system to come in and take that from us. I think that over time, what I feel is happening is that it's not. I think that we have a deep craving for human soul driven expressions of art and creativity. And I don't currently feel like AI is super duper threatening that. Now that may be completely naive of me, but right now I feel like most of us understand like kind of the difference between the two. And if we're looking for this kind of experience, we might go in that direction. If we're looking for this type of experience, we might go in the other direction. And that's an oversimplified view of my opinion on AI. I think there's a lot of things that are really cool that it can do generally. And I think there's a lot of things that it creates, like artistically, for example, that I find unnerving and disorienting. But On the
Like what?
complete flip side, I don't know if you've seen, do you watch Kelly at the Truth and Story?
I do sometimes. Yeah.
Okay. She did a whole deep dive on AI. Did you watch this from her?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Absolutely fascinating. Fascinating. I was like hours of live stream content of her talking about this experience, but she basically went on a whole thought exercise of talking to AI as a form of, as any other type of divination, essentially, like dipping into this collective knowledge and
Hmm.
having this conversation. And I would highly encourage anybody who's kind of been like, curious, but I don't know how I feel, I don't know, to watch it, because it was a really, really powerful explanation of somebody having a very magical, very valid, very personal experience working, like talking to or communicating with AI in a way that for her was very healing and empowering and beautiful and magical. And I thought that was really incredible. And then I've also seen people do artistic stuff with AI that I feel like
Hmm.
they've gone down they've given it some boundaries to make it a more ethical. Like, for example, having it produce art in the style of a long past, what's the deck I'm thinking of? The Haptic Tarot. That's the one.
Hmm.
I felt like his approach to working with AI to create a deck was really interesting and thoughtful and well thought out. But yeah, I'm kind of all over the place with it. I don't think I would currently see a place in my own practice to go to AI and be like, give me a reading. Because to me, I feel like
Hmm.
I'd be missing something there. But at the same time, who am I to say that dipping into AI is any different than bibliomancy or so many other types of divination where we are dipping into some sort of collective pool of knowledge? Because it's all just basically a big pool of information that we're dipping
It
into.
is. Hmm.
So I'm not,
That we're
I'm not
tapping
here to
into.
invalidate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
bank of knowledge
Yeah.
in this realm that we're tapping into, and it's pretty similar to what we do with divination, but it's an
Yeah.
ethereal bank of knowledge
It's
of
almost
collective
like
experience.
a technological version of how I might imagine the Akashic records. And yes, it
Exactly.
exists in this plane on this earth. So who am I to say that is not a valid way to communicate with spirit? So I am all over the
Wow, I
place.
love it. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm all over the place, but I see where some of the ethical issues are, and then I also see
Uh-huh.
over here all these possibilities, and I'm like, where do I sit? I don't know. I'm exploring. I'm curious, but I'm not right now putting my eggs in any baskets. I'm just kind of seeing what unfolds and seeing how I feel about what different people do. But I think what Kelly at the Truth and Story did, and she ended up making a deck out of that
Uh-huh.
experience. I think it was really powerful, really cool, and she based it all on her own. um I really encourage you to watch it, but she what she call it, her inner landscape. Like, you know how sometimes we create, I've done this, I don't know if other people have had this experience, but you create sort of a, what is the word? I can't think of it all this, an astral temple, or like an
Hmm.
astral plane where you personally visit, that you've like decorated, that's like your space on the astral. I've done
Hmm.
that. And that's kind of what she did. And then she used AI to bring that to life, to connect to that space. And I thought that was just the coolest thing. Anyways, if you're interested, I think it's well
Oh
worth
my God,
digging.
yeah. I'm actually
Yeah.
gonna look it up right after. Once we're done, I'm gonna look through
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
It's very cool.
Thank you for sharing that. So
Yeah.
let's talk about unicorns. You love
Okay.
unicorns.
All right.
Tell me everything about your love for unicorns.
Oh
What
my
they
gosh.
represent to you. Do you find them as a symbolism of healing? Uh, anything that you want to share?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, one of my beefs is that unicorns are often sort of over commercialized to the point where we've lost touch with, I think, what
Uh-huh.
they can potentially symbolize in their magic. But I've been passionate about unicorns since I was little. Like, I joined the speech and debate club in high school and literally competed in the speech club on with a presentation that I scored very well in on, were unicorns real or not? Do we have enough cultural context to say they did actually walk the earth at some point?
Uh-huh.
So when I say I'm passionate about this topic, intensely passionate, but I will say, in the last 20 years or so, the unicorns have come forward as an archetype for me of the idea of what authenticity and truly embracing your own self, your own authenticity, your own inner magic. When I say, like, let your inner magic shine out, when I talk about that, letting your magic shine forward, the story that
Uh-huh.
I tell in this deck, it's all about the idea of living authentically despite what anybody else believes about you. If you think about it, a unicorn is a wonderful archetype for being exactly who you are, whether or not anyone sees that in you or sees that about you or recognizes it or validates it. It's like, this is just my existence. This is my experience. And I'm going to just walk proudly in that experience. So for me, there's a strong link between unicorns and the idea of self-expression, authenticity, magic, and sort of an inner alchemy of self-acceptance and personal empowerment, which I realize is kind of wooing all over the place. But to me, it's so powerful because we don't even know, like, most of us assume that these are just mythical creatures. They don't exist, and that's fine. But what if, you know, they did? What do they represent for us? Why are we all so enchanted with them? Why was there a unicorn in almost every culture globally? In a certain point, you can find some reference to a unicorn-like being in their stories, in their myths. There's a powerful archetype there to be explored. So I think it's much more than like I said, Lisa Frank and rainbows, even though I love that stuff. I love cutesy unicorns, but I also love the mythology of unicorns and the depth of unicorns and the way that for me, they've kind of became a mascot of self-acceptance, learning to be okay being kind of fluffy and light in a world that can sometimes be kind of intense and dark and shitty, you know, sorry. I shouldn't swear on your channel.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
But like, you know, they represent so much to me. But so that's a real thing for me. Also, I've worked with unicorns as spirit guides in the past and like had real archetypal experiences working with them in that way. And yeah, I find them incredibly powerful. And I think
that was my next question, actually. If you use, have you used them as spiritual guides? Do you want to
absolutely.
Expand a little bit more on that?
Yeah, actually, if you in the deck, in fact, I'll grab it because I'm excited about it.
Yes.
But there's a unicorn that shows up in this deck that actually is the best rendition I could get of the unicorn spirit guide I've been working with for like 20 plus years. And
does it have a name?
I call him Clyde because he looks like a Clydesdale, but he doesn't actually have a name. That's just the name I came up with when I was young. But he does. He looks kind of Clydesdale-ish like, but he is the unicorn in the Judgment card. And then he also, in the bonus card of this deck, there's a light and there's a shadow card. And Clyde is the light card. I'll show you. If I can find it, it'll be the last card I find because that's how this usually goes. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So here's where he first shows up.
Let me put you on the big screen.
So
oh, that's beautiful.
This is Clyde back here. And then also Clyde is in my light card. Here he is. That's also Clyde
that's
right there.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So just looks like a base, like he's just a chonky unicorn, like a chonky, big, muscular, bright, shining white unicorn. And very, very, for my experience, was always very masculine energy as well. But love him. And yeah, I had worked with him for a long time. And it's funny because his energy for me was always very like empowering, but also like almost all my spirit guides are like this. They're very much like, I'm going to tell you how it is and be kind of like call you out a lot. I'm like that with all of my spiritual work. Like I feel like all my spiritual work is always like calling myself out and like holding myself accountable and whatever. So my spirit guides have always kind of had that vibe too. And that's kind of how Clyde's always been. But yeah, so you see him honored in this deck for sure. But I have a deck that I've used to communicate with him and like, yeah, for sure.
All right. We have Gerald. Hello, Gerald. Thank you for stopping by. Do you have a significator? Is there a card in the tarot that you identify with?
Yeah, it's the Page of Cups. Every once in a while, it's the Queen of Cups, but it's usually the Page of Cups.
Could you show me the Page of Cups from your
Unicorn's Journey?
Deck? Yes.
Yeah.
Both of them, actually.
She's real cute. Oh, and the Queen? Yeah.
Yes.
I'll show you both. The Queen shows up actually in my deck. The court cards actually show up as characters in the deck. So here you see the Queen. That's actually the Queen of Water, comforting mystic in the Five of Cups or Five of Water.
So
she shows up there. She also shows up. You can see her in the background here. That's the Queen of Cups over there. She has her own card, of course, but yeah, that's the one thing I wanted to do with this deck is bring the court cards to life. So they actually are characters that show up in the story throughout the suit, not just in their own cards. So you see them as characters. I'm not going to be able to find either one of them now. That's the King. There she is. There she is in her own card. There's the Queen of Water.
Oh, I love the colors. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, and there's the Page right beside her. Look at that.
There you go.
So this is like, for example, you can see here this in the background. That's Mystic, and that's actually the Knight of Water. This card is another perspective of the Two of Water. So if I could show you, oh my God. I hope people love this piece because I had so much fun coming up with this system. But basically, when you see the court cards, they actually show you another perspective on the story. So you'll see kind of a scene or a different, either a just before or just after, or just a different angle of something that happens elsewhere in their suit. Oh my gosh, where is it? That's the ace. I just want to show you as an example. But of course, it's going to take me 8 million hours.
Take your time.
Obviously, I am a nerd about this stuff. Oh, it's in the other pile. But my thing was like, I feel like with, like we've talked about before, people stumble in the courts, and it's because they sometimes don't feel very dynamic. They feel separate. So yeah, so here Mystic is having a moment with this. This is the Knight of Water. And in the back, we see a couple of little water nymphs. But then when you see the Page of Water, Mystic, they've just embraced. Now they're actually embracing. They're having a little hug in the background. And the Page is in the front, seeing this and getting all excited about it. So the idea being, when you get to the court cards, you're going to see another perspective of something that's already happened in that suit in the story. So yeah.
That's so fascinating.
I wanted them to be dynamic. I wanted us to know who's the Queen of Water, how does she behave, who's the Page of Water, how do they behave, and so we see them in the deck elsewhere. Not because a lot of decks we get to the court cards and they're just boom portraits, and we're like, okay, that doesn't tell us anything about them. But if we see how they behave and interact with other characters, then we get to know them, and they have more life. You know,
that's amazing. I have to say, I have to confess, I never cared about unicorns, but through you. I am looking at that deck, like I'm fascinated. Like I really want to explore more on it, and I just can't wait for your deck to come out to get it.
Oh, thank you.
Really, really. So you made me be interested and be fascinated about the topic. So
thank you
very much. Yes, and I loved our conversation today. I learned so much, and you gave me so much insight into topics that I didn't think of. So thank you for that.
Thank you again. I love these conversations. So much fun.
Yes, so we're gonna do a game that I call This or That.
I'm ready.
I'm going to present you 10 situational questions, 10 funny situational questions, and you will choose between 2 tarot cards, and you'll tell me which one and why. Are you ready?
Okay, I think so.
All right, let's go. First question: would you rather take a selfie at the edge of a cliff with the Fool, or at a wild party with the Devil?
Oh, the Devil. I want the wild party. I feel like that'd be a better selfie. It wouldn't just be me by myself at the edge of a cliff. Also, if I was with a Fool, I'm probably gonna trip. I'm probably gonna fall. I'm a klutz. I don't want to be at the edge of a cliff with the Fool trying to
Especially
take a selfie.
With that dog barking around. With that dog barking around, it'll tip you over.
Yeah, I'm too accident prone. I'll take the wild party any day. At least then I can only fall so many places, right? It's safer somehow.
It'll be a cooler picture.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Question number 2. Are you a shopaholic or a penny pincher?
I don't even need to answer this question. I am 7 of Cups all the way. Love impulse purchases. Some of them have been the best ones ever. Totally a 7 of Cups girl. Yes.
What do you like to buy the most?
Tarot decks.
That was great. Easy. Why not? Of course, duh, right?
That's the main thing. Yeah, I do. She says I collect everything, and she's right. I get into a hobby, and then I magpie. I like have to have all the things. So I don't have just like one of anything. Like it's a problem. Like I get into coloring, I now have like 20 coloring books. I get into like knitting, I now have like all the knitting things. It's a problem. I call myself a hobby squirrel. Like I just have to like give me all the things. Yeah.
What do you enjoy more, online shopping or going to stores?
Oh, going to stores hands down. Because again, I'm tactile. I like to pick up and hold and look through and touch. So, but I have limited time, so I end up doing more online shopping than physical. But
it makes sense. So, I don't like going to stores. I have to say, if I go to a store, I have to go. I know what I want, and I go straight for it and leave. Like,
oh, you know what? I was stressed out about my deck, and we got news that the production was finished. So I said to Peggy, I'm like, you're taking me to a bookstore right now. And she hates going to the bookstore with me because I can't just go and get what I want and leave. I have to go and I have to browse and I have to like sniff the books and like hang out like chill. It's like a minimum of like 2 hours every time. And it drives her batty. And so the fact that she said yes was such a like momentous moment. And even still, after an hour, she's like, "Are you done yet? Like, can we please go?" But yeah, love it.
Day or a nightmare on the night of Sword Street?
Okay, hit me with that one again because I think my internet went funky.
Okay. Best plot for a horror movie:
Oh.
Judgment Day, or A Nightmare on the Night of Sword Street?
I'd say Nightmare on the Nine of Swords. I think I tend to go more towards like psychological thrillers and like more, I like that. That messes with my head more in a good way than like the big showy actiony kind of stuff that I would associate with like a Judgment Day sort of situation. So I like the Nine of Swords for this.
Did you like the movies from Freddy Krueger?
Yes, but it's a product of my time. But I feel like now they wouldn't be my thing. I think they were my thing because they were the thing back then. But now, no, not so much. I really like psychological thrillers though. There was like a stalker movie or a stalker show that was out. Oh, I forget what it's called. You or something. That was really good. I like movies that like scare me because they're. I don't like gore. You know, I like to be the thriller scary stuff, but not for it to be gory.
Yes. And I feel the same way. A lot of the movies that I find the scariest are not the ones with special effects or anything.
Yeah.
They're the ones that look much more real.
Yeah, same.
That are possible. Like the Mothman Prophecies, for example.
I've never seen those.
Oh my God, that movie scares me. That and The Fourth Kind. They're the two movies that really scare me. Yes. It's so intense. And it looks so real. Like there's no special effects. No. But the way the story's projected, it's, I don't know.
Super scary.
Yes, totally. All right. Question number 4. Yeah. Question number 4. The universe hires you for a part-time gig. Which one would you take? Babysitting or zookeeper?
Oh, that's a toss-up. I'm in my I want to be a grandma era, but I really do like animals. But I feel like with zookeeper, there's poop either way. So like, I think I was like, what am I gonna have to do? And I'm like, well,
that is so true.
It is though. I'm gonna say I'll say babysitting. Although the babysitting, it's kind of a toss-up.
Either or.
Okay.
You're fine with both.
I'll pick babysitting.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm in my water grandma.
Love it. I never had that answer. I never had anyone bring that up, but that's actually really good.
I'm a dork. I don't know.
All right. Question number 5. You are at a cosmic bar and the universe sends you a free drink. Would you choose a custom-made cocktail by the Temperance Angel or a mystery drink by the Ace of Cups?
Oh, I want the cocktail. That seems amazing. I feel like the Temperance cocktail would probably serve me a little better too. Right now, I need some balance. Give me some moderation and a little balance in a juicy, tropical, tasty drink. That's what I want right now. Yeah.
What's your favorite drink?
Probably a Bellini, which is a specialty up here, but it's like a slushy pink peachy drink. It's like slushy peach schnapps, I think, and I think there's some grenadine in it. It's really, really fresh and delicious and cold and yummy. So good. Used to be back in the day when a cosmopolitan.
Is it a Canadian thing?
Bellinis are definitely, they're like a Vancouver thing. I think they were created at a restaurant here. So yeah, my tops would be, it would probably be a Bellini. Then it would be a Caesar, which is completely different. It's like a Bloody Mary, but with Clamato, and I like it really spicy. It's like a snack and a cocktail at the same time. Or like girly drinks, like anything tropical, anything fruity, anything colorful. Yeah. Total girly drinks.
That's awesome.
Love it.
So a Bellini from the Temperance Angel.
Yeah.
A Temperance Angel looks like a great bartender, right?
Like legitimately, for real.
Right?
Yeah, they'd be great.
All right. Question number 6. You're running late to an important meeting. Would you rather draw the Chariot for quick transportation to the meeting, or the Knight of Swords for speedy communication to excuse yourself?
Oh, I'd go Chariot all the way. Get me there as quick as you can. I don't want to get out of it. I just want to get there. And I'm going to stress the whole way.
Uh,
Yeah.
you have to get there anyway, so why not get
Yeah.
to the point, right?
That's what I'm thinking. Just get there.
Uh-huh. Awesome.
Ooh.
All right. Question number 7. You're hosting a party and the snacks run out. Would you rather draw the Empress for endless abundance or the Magician to conjure more snacks?
I'm gonna say the Magician because I don't want to have to make those snacks. I don't want to have to prepare anything. I don't like to cook. Just show up. This is my like Uber Eats guy coming to save the day. Yeah.
That's awesome. So if you have a party, what kind of snacks can we find at your place?
Whatever Peggy makes, or I have purchased from my local Costco, or I don't know. I don't know. I'm an introvert. I don't people that much. The idea of hosting a party is actually kind of terrifying to me.
Is it? Why?
Leave that to somebody else. They can do all of that. I mean, I don't mind organizing an event, I guess. But then you'd have to have something savory and you'd have to have something sweet. So I feel like you'd need like some kind of like meat and cheese platter or like a sandwich, build your own sandwich tray or something, or like something like that. And then you'd also need like some kind of desserty thing, like little cake bars or like chocolate fondue or something fun. I don't know. I just don't want to have to make it. I just want to show up.
What is Peggy's specialty?
Everything. No, she's very much like if I'm gonna cook, I'm gonna follow a recipe like to the T. Peggy's like, here's what we have. Let's just make something. It breaks my brain every time she does it. It's usually delicious. I don't think it's ever been not good, but some are obviously better than others, but like wild combinations. And then whatever it is, it is. She hates recipes. They make her nuts. She's very much fly by the seat of her pants. I'm like, please give me instructions every step of the way.
Step by step. No room for error. I'm kind of like the same way. I love cooking. When I do the recipe for the first time, I understand the basics of it, but then as I make it again, I tweak things here and there to make it my own.
Yeah, that's where my creativity will show up, is if I know I'm a little nervous about it, but like if I'm making something, like I can make a really good quiche, for example, because I've learned the base recipe for quiche and then I play with different things in the quiche and then it's really fun. I love that kind of thing, but I'll still look it up. Like I'll be like, oh, I wonder if I should put like beets and goat cheese in this, but I'll Google it. Has anybody ever put beets and goat cheese in a quiche before? Okay, somebody out there did it. I can do it. Okay, cool. But like I have a hard time.
Have you done it?
Completely off
I'm sure it tastes great.
It's so good, actually. The beets and goat cheese quiche was so good. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's a great idea for our next party.
That's a good
All right, question number 8. Your sweetie, we can say Peggy. Peggy spills coffee on a favorite shirt before going to a big date, even though you warn many times to be careful. Would you rather draw the Emperor to command the stain out, or the Hierophant to teach a valuable lesson on being more careful?
I would get rid of the stain, because the being more careful thing is not going to happen. She's wearing something by the end of the night. It's just a matter of when. So I think it's more about acceptance and stain management. I definitely think the Emperor would be the right call.
Perfect. That's a great call. All right. Question number 9. You walk into a glass door in front of a crowd. Would you rather draw the Justice to sue the door, or the World to make it a global meme?
Oh, I'll go with the World and make it a meme. I'm accident prone. I've got to, again, I just need to accept it. It's okay. I've actually done that. Roll with it.
It's who you are. I think we've all been in that. It's happened to all of us at one point. The thing is how often it happens, right?
Yeah, exactly. For real.
Oh God. All right. And the last question.
Okay.
Who really missed the mark? Fashion advice from the Lovers, or survival skills from the Ten of Swords?
Oh, God. Wow, they're both real bad. I'm gonna say survival. Well, actually, no. I'm gonna say fashion advice on the Lovers, because while they're not wearing clothes, they definitely still could figure it out. And the Ten of Swords, I still think, is a survivor at heart. So I think the Lovers messed up bigger. Yeah.
That's a great way to see it, even though there is a sense of survival here, right?
Absolutely. Well, he's blessing peace, right? He's still,
Uh-huh.
even though he's all the way stabbed, he's holding his fingers in that peace sign blessing, right? Of the Hierophant. Yep.
That is
So
interesting. That is a detail that it's a great way to see it.
yeah,
I love it. No, that
yeah,
makes total sense. So we're going with the Lovers. Fashion advice by the Lovers. They missed
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah. That's fun.
Awesome.
I like that.
Lisa, it was such an honor and so much fun to chat with you tonight.
Oh, thank you so much. This was a blast. I feel like the time just literally
I
flew.
know, right? Oh
Went
my
so
God,
fast.
hour and a half already, and it feels like nothing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for opening yourself, opening your heart, talking a little about yourself, about your channel with us. Definitely, I get to see a lot of different things under a different light, especially unicorns and this now. And I can't wait for your book and your deck to come out.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited.
Yes.
And thanks for having me. This is a blast. I will definitely be checking out the 10 dimensions when we're done.
Yes. Yeah. And I'll
Yeah.
check the other videos.
Yeah.
And I want to say thank you for everything you do for the community, for
Oh,
sharing
thank
your
you.
time, your creativity, your channel. All your videos are so much fun. Thank you
Oh,
for sharing and bringing a lot of positivity for the community and the world.
oh, thank you so much. I get back way more than I give in this community, and I'm so grateful.
Thank you. And if you haven't stopped by Lisa's channel, the link is on the description below. Swing by, subscribe. You'll
Yeah,
love
come
it.
say hi.
Everything she does is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
All right. And
Thanks for hanging out
thank
with
you.
us, everybody.
Yes. Thank you for hanging us with us. And I'll see you on the next episode of In Orbit. Till then, blessings to all. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.